said I was going to come back and do more Federal Express routes. Well, I'm back again on this segment of the Get Geezer. If this is your first time checking out the Get Geezer, hey, thanks for coming by. And if you're a returning visitor of the Get Geezer, hey, thanks for coming back. And if you would not mind, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. Well, today is Saturday, November 26, 2022. Can you believe it? We're just about out of 2022. In a few more days, we'll be in the month of December. And we'll be talking, I guess some of us will be talking about how we've done for the entire year or wrapping up the year. This is my third route for Federal Express this year. The last recent Get Geezer segment I uploaded, it was my first route, and that one was a route from hell. The second route that I completed, which was on Tuesday of this week, went much smoother in comparison to the first route. It was, compared to the first route, it was tighter, but then again, it wasn't tight. I had about 90 stops, and it took me a little while to get it done. It took me a little over 5 hours because of the area that I had to traverse. The one thing that I can say is that I did deliver all the parcels that was on my vehicle, which is a good thing. But again, it was a time factor. Well, today I've got even less parcels to deliver. And so, quite honestly, this should be done somewhere about 3.5 hours. And the reason being is, while I'm working in a single zip code, the fact is that I'm actually traversing different parts of the zip code, and you actually cover some area in the process. Now, one thing I've shared about the Columbia metropolitan area in many segments of the Get Geezer, it is highly conceivable that you can drive 20 minutes and cover 20 miles because everything is so spread out, and that's what you're dealing with. The area that I'm going is more so populated, more residential. We're not dealing with a lot. I mean, there are some dirt paths, some dirt and rocky paths, some gravel paths in this delivery area. But by and large, we're talking about surface streets and residential areas. Now, what I'll be doing, at least in this segment of the Get Geezer, also is kind of updating you on some things that I'll be looking to do very soon with the Get Geezer channel. There's things that I've been working on behind the scenes to give different presentations of content and newer presentations of content, in fact. So as it is today, I have put in 3.5 days this week, and I'm coming in at about $789. Give or take a few pennies though, but $789 this week. I know that I have put in about 27 hours exactly this week, and that comes out to about $29 an hour. Some of those hours, most of those hours were on Tuesday when I went out on Federal Express route, and then yesterday where I had put in 8 hours to make my number of at least $200. I finished today at $204 and change though, but it took me 8 hours. Now, I did not record any content on the day after Thanksgiving, but I will say that it was slow. The Columbia metropolitan area is not a place that people come to for vacation or for holidays. If anything, Columbia metropolitan area is an area that people are trying to get the hell out of. In fact, very common on Fridays at about 11 o'clock, the highway system starts getting congested, in which people are trying to get the hell out of Columbia for the weekend. Now, what is probably of significant note for those who are natives of this state, this weekend is the Clemson, South Carolina football game, and the game is being held in Clemson this year. In fact, the way it goes, odd years are held in Columbia, even years are held in Clemson. Now, me being a sports reporter, I covered Clemson, South Carolina games between 1993 and 1999. And I'll tell you, every year that I covered one, I was hoping that it was my last one. True enough, I would put my size 12 wides in my mouth before I even get to the first stop. As you can see here, I am actually leaving my first stop. The first stop is off on a little side road down a dirt path, and you know, you overrun it once, and then you catch it on the way back. And that's pretty much what happens when you have roads like this. The sign is actually kind of partially hidden or concealed by trees, and so you really got to be paying attention to your map in order to go where you need to go. So that's one down and a lot more to go. Now, one thing that I've mentioned and a lot of other people will share with you, the most important thing is setting up a route. One of the things that I've kind of adapted after the very first route I did, which is almost a week ago. What I did was, with the new manifest being on the app, what I did was I stopped literally plotting out my route in my vehicle to where my first 10 stops were right up here to my right, and then the next set of stops were in the back, and then I would rotate the other stops from the bed of the truck back into here. What I do now is somewhat sequential. I mean, typically the parcels have a route and then a sub-route number, and the sub-route number is typically 4 digits. And so I'll group together the 1s and the 2s and the 3s and the 4s on up to 8. That's typically as high as they get, at least with the routes that I have done. And then so from there I just kind of rotate things through. Now, what I still do though is ideally I will try to get my first 10 stops as close to me as possible if it can be done. And that kind of helps me try to get into some type of rhythm. It's not an exact science, it's not always foolproof, but that's the goal, to try to get into some type of logistical rhythm. All right, 1 hour is in the books, and I have completed over right about a dozen stops. I am not sweating that at this juncture because I feel that I'm going to make up a good bit of ground over the next couple of hours. My goal is to be finished by 2:30 today, which would put me at about 4 hours. But I said 3.5 hours, so somewhere in between 3.5 hours. So anywhere between 2 and 2:30 today would be considered a win for me if I'm able to complete this route by then. Ideally, what I'd like to be is back at the house by 3:30 today and resting up for the evening hustle. Now, one thing about Federal Express, at least for me, and how it factors into my grind, my hustle, is that it provides me, for whatever it's worth, a decent bump to the start of the day. The thing that I have to deal with, however, is the fact that and I just missed my fucking turn. Shit. Actually, no, I didn't miss my turn. I missed my first opportunity for a turn. What happened is for this particular stop coming up, the second opportunity, this road is actually a circle. And so what happens is, as I'm coming back now, I'm going to make a right-hand turn and stop off at the next stop. Okay, it is actually about 2 hours or so later, and I'm getting back with you. Quite frankly, what happens is when I'm in delivery mode, I'm really thinking about trying to get to the next stop, and as fast as I can. I have actually 6 parcels left. 245. I said if I get 230, if I'm done by 230, it's a win. It's not going to be a win today. I'm not even going to say it's close. It's a loss. What did I do wrong today? Well, it could have been just a strategy of plotting out certain stops. There were a couple of stops in which I had to get signatures and check ID, and then there were a couple of situations where I had to find the address. In fact, the stop before this one that I just dropped off at, I'm in a part of the Columbia metropolitan area where there are certain streets that are notoriously, they're just notorious. I mean, you can have evens and odds on one side. It's a mess. The numbers aren't sequential. Instead of like 5, 7, 9, 11, it could be 5, 6, 10, 7 on one side of the street. It's really a bad mess. In fact, that stop there, all the maps showed the house being on the left side at the corner, and when I got out, I heard this voice saying, "What's the address you're trying to get to?" And I told the address. This ain't it. And then I looked across the street. That was the address. In fact, the people were kind of looking with curiosity, like, I think he's trying to find our address, but they never volunteered to say anything. But then I got it. I handed it to them though. They got their parcel. It's all good. In fact, I'm about to drop off this next one, and then I'll have 5 to go. All right. All right. So I am done with the route, and I'm en route to heading back to the warehouse, to the yard, to drop off my scanner for today. That's this thing here. I think I took a screenshot of what the manifest looks like, and that's this right here. I mentioned the manifest at one point because what I've been having to do is coordinate 3 different things: the scanner, the manifest app that's on my phone now, and then also mapping, knowing where I'm going. And so I was thinking in between, points that I wanted to bring out for this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. How could I have done better? What did I miss? Where did I go wrong? And where did I go wrong? There's a couple of things that always seem to be getting to me right now. One of them is that the manifest, you really don't have a lot of time to be checking off. You can check off every single parcel at the yard, but that's going to take a lot of time, at least confirming each parcel that's on the manifest. The smartest thing to do, what I found out, is to load up your vehicle with all the parcels, but divide them such that, as I mentioned earlier, that you got the 1s with the 1s, the 2s with the 2s, 3s with the 3s, 4s with the 4s, and on down the line. Then once you get close to your first stop, you take time out to bring vehicles up, bring parcels up to your right, where those are the ones that you're going to be scanning off and delivering. And then you're going to do that a couple more times, in which you're going to do that as many times as need be to complete your route, in which you're bringing parcels from some point in your vehicle up to the front. The best feeling is when you get to the last set of parcels where they're all in one area inside your vehicle. You know that you're almost done. But what gets me is not only when you're going through your route and then you come upon a parcel that you more than likely was not in your route, but you still have to take the time out to comb through all your parcels to make sure, and comb through your vehicle to make sure that you didn't misplace it somewhere, because that happens. Like if it's a small envelope or small bulb envelope, it's easy for it to get caught under the seat, in one of your door wells, or like with me with the truck, it could be stuck in between something in the back. There's only a couple of places where that can happen. But you want to make sure that as you're going through your route, that you're not leaving anything anywhere else on your vehicle. The next thing is actually one of the best ways to familiarize yourself with an area that you're not familiarized with is to do some type of gig work, do rideshare or do delivery work. You're gonna learn your market geographically. It's gonna take, typically, I know, like with rideshare, it took me about a good 6 weeks. I want to say in upwards of 3 to 6 weeks before I really had a good feel for the market. Whichever, what I meant by it's when I first started with Colombia, I knew how to get certain places just visually. But when you start putting an address with the location, that's another thing. Well, this route that I'm doing, I've not really mentioned the actual area. It's West Columbia. West Columbia is a funny area because West Columbia is one of the larger areas in Lexington County, outside of the town of Lexington. Yet it borders a couple of other towns. Casey, that's one of them. And what else? Pine Ridge, that's another. And then there's Congaree. And one of the things about West Columbia too is that, 25 years ago, West Columbia, you may want to say, was underdeveloped. And so problem is when you get out to certain places that are not new subdivisions, you've got areas in which they just put fucking addresses and structures anywhere, and as the area has built up, those changes have not been made to those addresses. And so, as I mentioned earlier, you may have on one side of the street, you may have even and odds, but they all may not, and they all may not be sequential. So there's a lot of nuances when you're doing Federal Express or even UPS or even Amazon Flex. Now, what has helped me, as I've shared too, is that I've done previous delivery work with Amazon Flex out in this area, and then also doing the gig delivery stuff, DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats. That also has helped me as well. I've seen some places, or I would say just places either where I've picked up people from rideshare or I've delivered to people in the past, for whatever that's worth. But has it helped me so far? No. Am I up to mid-season form yet? No. And I don't know if I'm going to get the mid-season form this year because of the type of routes that I've had so far. This one, if I were to rate it, would be, I've done 3 now. The best one was Tuesday. This is the second best, and the first one was the worst. This one could have been better, in which I could have knocked off a good 35, 45 minutes had I guess, if you will, if I had set up my route a little more efficiently, and if I had worked the route efficiently as well. Because the last stop that I made was actually where I had to circle back to one where I missed that route, where I missed that stop. Because while I'm out there, I'm also taking time to plan out at least the next 5 to 12 stops along with the parcels. And so this is one that I missed. I just straight out missed it. But hopefully what I'm sharing with you may inspire you, or may help you in your gig hustle doing either UPS or Federal Express, or for that matter, Amazon Flex. They're all similar in that respect. The difference though is with Amazon Flex. Amazon Flex is a ruthless, brutal beast. And the reason why I say that is because Amazon Flex treats you as just an algorithm, just like DoorDash and Grubhub in particular, or even Waiter/Bite Squad. You're just an algorithm. You're just a blip on the algorithm. And what happens is that it was, at least during my experience, it was common to get these emails where people claim to have not gotten their parcel, which is a fucking lie, or there may have been allegations of property damage. How? I mean, all you're doing is stopping to drop off something. But when you ask Amazon Flex, well, who said it and what was it? They won't divulge that information. They say it's a matter of privacy. But yet, if there's enough of those allegations that come forth, guess what? You're going to get a friendly, well-written email advising you that you have violated terms of agreement and you are no longer active doing Amazon Flex. So that's why I'm so critical of Amazon Flex, because they're ruthless. And then again, if you have a 3-4 hour block or even a 5-hour block, the longest block I ever had was 4.5 hours. If you take too long with those blocks too many times, that's another friendly, well-written email advising you of your violation of terms of agreement and your deactivation from that app. But anyway, I've not experienced any of those type of things doing Federal Express. I guess the biggest thing with Federal Express is that, at least based on conversation I've had with a customer of mine who has done UPS work, UPS supposedly pays better than Federal Express. UPS will pay you both hour per hour and mileage to go with it. So again, that's all I have for this segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment of the Gig Geezer or in any other segment of the Gig Geezer, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below.
Alrighty, we are back at the Gig Studio, and what you see here is a basic setup of what may be how I present content for many other featured Gig Geezer uploads. And this may also be the basic setup for even live stream broadcasts that I have planned as well on YouTube. What I'll also mention is that when you look at like the background, for example, you see Gig Media. That's my creation, as with the adjacent or opposite of me, you see the Gig Geezer watermark. Those are all things that I come up with myself. I'm pretty much a self-sufficient operation. Kind of reminds me of when I used to publish books. I did everything myself. I did the editing, I did the book cover design, I did all that stuff. I'm just that type of person, I suppose. But I'm looking to do other things like live streams. I'm looking to create new overlays for stuff like this, and even some animations to go with it. And really, all this reminds me, in addition to my days as being publishing books, it reminds me of my days from hosting on the Blog Talk Radio platform as well. The difference is that we're just dealing with a video element. And of course, when you're doing a video element, they say a picture's worth 1,000 words, and it may be worth more than that. Well, I do want to go ahead on and share some closing thoughts from Routes, things that I thought of saying while out there on route and didn't complete those thoughts, or things that I just did not say at all. But as I mentioned initially, I said that for me, at least in 2022, Federal Express provides a bump to my daily grind and hustle. And really, that's what it all amounts to. I am paid weekly, and so that means I have to deal with money deferred, as opposed to money that I'm able to access on a daily basis. As you know, like with DoorDash, Grubhub, Uber Eats, Bite Squad, Instacart, Uber, Lyft, that's all money that you can access every day. Roadie, just about all your apps you're able to access every day. But the way Federal Express does it, you're paid weekly, and so I have to manage accordingly. Moving on, while out on route, what I didn't mention was that what I have seen after 3 completed routes is that technically the routes are more concentrated because I am dealing relatively with a smaller area, but that may be a matter of one's own interpretation. The other thing is that, and you see here, I'm just switching screens here. This is some of the things that I'm talking about, but I did have some moments in which I had some stops that were in succession and actually on streets back to back within a subdivision. And that allowed me to make up some time. But the routes still by and large are rather spaced out. But what I meant by stops in succession, on those streets in which they were back to back, I had 4 stops in a row. And so, and on one street, after the fourth stop, the fifth stop was directly across the street from that house. And that's really the first time I had something like that happen so far. So, in all, what I would say at this juncture is that my speed was similar to what it was on Tuesday, but I'm still giving the nod on Tuesday in terms of having better execution. So that's all I have to share from the Gig Studio with this segment of the Gig Geezer. And if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button. Give my content a thumbs up. Share my content among others, and I definitely welcome your comments in the section below. I'm in Wood Lane, and as always, may your hustle and may your grind continue.